I swear it was just yesterday that we were celebrating Christmas, the holidays, and New Year, and now we're already on the second week of Winter of Anime 2016. This is the second episode of Prince of Stride. Hard to believe. It really, like I've said many times in the past, just time flies when you're watching anime. And so, today, everybody, I'm here to bring all of you another anime review of Prince of Stride. Episode 2, to be exact. Now, if you have yet to see my first impressions I did last week, I will probably have that linked in the description where you can check it out for yourself. But anyways, I want to dive straight headfirst into Episode 2. So episode 2, for the most part, is very slow-paced. That is the best way to kind of summarize the episode, because it was mainly focusing on the characters, building them up, showcasing all the main male characters and, what their, main personality traits are about, and also getting to see how our characters are trying to get a sponsor before they can go into their first match. And that's pretty much all of what episode 2 is kind of about. Just getting a sponsor, trying to set up the next week's match, and then also all the characters getting characterization. So, talking about one thing I liked about this episode, it had to be probably the characterization. I'm glad that, this episode decided to come out right after the action-packed episode, because it allows us to grow, more connected with the characters. It's not just all about action and seeing Mirror's Edge type shit, which is very entertaining. I have to admit, that was probably the best part of last week's episode, but we do need time to wind down and, see this type of development we got in this episode. Now, it's not the most groundbreaking characterization I've ever seen. It's definitely not the best I've ever seen, and by far probably not the best of this season, but it clearly is entertaining, depending on how you look at it. Now, one thing I have to say that I noticed a problem with when it came to this episode would probably have to be the animation. The animation... Okay, so now, as I said in my first impressions, the animation art are very colorful. It's a very colorful color palette, and I mean, it just looks so pizzazzy. You're like, damn, it's just so many colors. And that's what really makes this series stand out. But, in this episode, I noticed a lot of the characters' facial proportions were a little bit off, especially in some of the scenes, and some of the art looked rather bland or uninteresting throughout the entire episode. Now, of course, animation art is not the most, isn't the thing you should always completely focus on, but it was something I noticed that was obvious in this episode compared to the first episode. Now, the first episode, it wasn't the best animated episode of all time, but it still looked pretty damn decent, and with this, the animation seems like it kind of took a little bit of a nosedive this week, so it kind of has me fearful how the second episode is already starting to show some, concerns with the art and animation compared to how the first episode was. I really do hope that they're just saving their, the budget, the animators are taking a break and resting for probably the taxing stuff when it comes to, the matches, when they're having to race and stuff. Now, speaking of racing, now we have new characters introduced in this episode, which is a rival school called, Saisei? I think that's the school that was being mentioned in this episode. Well, we get introduced to them, and as soon as we get introduced to them, about maybe 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes later, we find out that our team is going to be going up against him in, the next week's episode. So we're going headfirst already into a match. So, I mean, if you're interested in action, you're wanting action, it seems like next week's episode might be for you. Because, I mean, if you felt like this episode was boring, and you wanted more action or racing and stuff, I feel like you're probably going to be very happy with next week's episode, since that's what it's setting up. We'll also probably get to see an interesting rivalry building up between these two schools. Now, besides that, however, that's about it. I mean, the episode, very, very basic and average, nothing special, nothing out of the ordinary, and it's definitely something to watch when you just want to watch an anime. So that's about it. So tell me your thoughts in the comments below. I'm going to go watch that Gintama episode now that everybody's been begging me to do a live reaction to all day today. Like, it's ridiculous how many have recommended me to do a live reaction this actual past week. Like, Chibi, you need to do a live reaction. You need to do a live reaction to this upcoming episode. And I'm thinking like, oh shit, that's probably gonna be bad. So, we'll see. I'm gonna probably go do a live reaction again, Thomas. So that's it. I'm gonna wrap this up. You all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.